Welcome back, everybody, to Adobe Live. My name's Doc Reed, and today we're going to be working on building a gig poster for Beta Radio. If you haven't checked them out, they're on all the streaming platforms, so go give them a listen. They've released a couple of singles here this year, and I thought it would be fun to do a singles release type of a thing for some of their songs. So um, I know we've got a couple of assets that you can follow along with. There should be like an 18 by 24 document AI illustrated document with a couple of things in there that are pre-baked for you to play around with and show you how to use the blend tool to get a couple of quick shapes in the can for knocking out this project a little bit quicker. So I'm going to hop over to Illustrator real quick and give you a would look like. And so here in Illustrator, these are two options that I had worked through um, for two different songs. This one's gonna hurt and floating through. And these up here are some assets that I was playing around with. Wanted to show you some of the tools that Illustrator has got now that I utilized in some of the early concepts, and how we built them into built out this gig poster. So um, one of the other things I'm going to show you is I just found that Adobe Stock has some free selections. So I wanted to give folks an opportunity to check out some options. I think there'll be some links popping up into the chat here for folks to jump in to some free stock images to take a look at, see if you want to follow along with what we're going to be doing with halftoning the images to give this effect here to some of these images. Um, Something fun. I love halftones, but I want to show you a cool little trick that Photoshop will let you do with some images. So jump in. There's a couple of links. Pick your favorite one. If you've had a chance to listen to the Beta Radio songs and sort of know of them or their vibe, jump in, download an image, and we'll jump into Photoshop here in a little bit to talk through how to build out these. Um, One of the things that I did for this process is, obviously starting with some sketches. It's important. Always start with sketches, pen and paper, or digital, your call. But just get the ideas out of your head onto paper, onto digital. Just sort of start noodling with things. One of the ones that I preferred with this concept of this one's going to hurt was just a storytelling element of finding a figure that looked contemplative, potentially sad, and just sort of use graphic styling of a teardrop and the overwhelming sort of feeling of like what all that weight is going to be. So that's sort of where the storytelling element here of this bottom wave, this sort of rising up to the figure's chest, I would think. So um, that's just from a storytelling standpoint. But so feel free to jump into Adobe Stock, download some images. I think if you don't have an Adobe Stock account, you can do 3 free downloads a day. And so choose wisely. And we'll jump into Photoshop here in just a second. So I also, to get some of these are handwritten, just pen and ink on paper that I had done, taken photographs of them with my cell phone. I've got a fancy scanner, but with the cameras that we've got today, if you've got a camera or a phone in your pocket, you got a camera, you can basically digitize that handwriting as well. And we'll walk through that here in just a second. Um, and so these are the colors that I'm going to be working with. I'm setting this up to sort of be looked at as like a 3-color or a 2-color screen print. We've got white paper. We're going to be using this blue ink and this like olive army green color palette. And then I wanted to show you these two things here, this little teardrop and circle with hit the L key to get your circle. You can make a teardrop. That's a real quick way to make a teardrop. That's basically what I did is just grab that top corner, pull it up, and kill the anchor points, the Beziers on it, so it comes to a point, and you've got your tier shape. So you should have this in your document if you've downloaded it and to play along with us today. To set this up, this is all, I'm gonna put it in outline mode so you can see this. This is just two art or two elements. And so basically what you do, and I like doing this because I can change things on the fly and Illustrator will do the math for me. I don't have to go back in and tell it to space everything equidistance type of thing. If I set up a blend between these two, and to do that, you just hit the W key or go over here to in your toolbar and click on that icon, do a specific steps, and you can click in between those points. You'll get that in preview mode, but when you come back to see everything, come out of preview mode, this is what you'll look at. So if you go back into the blend mode, hit W again, it'll pull up this steps. Uh, and you can tell it, you'd be like, I want fewer, I want more, I want, added in. So the reason that this is handy is as you're moving around and trying to figure out where this figure is, say we jump in and oops, I've got things on layers. Let me get my layers. There we go. I'll show you this as well. It's a lot of pre-baking on this one, just so I can have files to walk through with you. So I've got this masked out, this image here, and got it placed sort of where I want it. But in case I want to move things around, I don't have to go back into Illustrator and manually move these. I can just sort of take that one element, draw it up, and it'll keep the endpoint and just sort of space everything out on the fly. So that's why I did it that way. So, and then the same thing here with creating this wave shape circle. We'll do the blend tool, get the this arc set in, and then when we go to build her out, we can do that. Actually, I want to go the other way so I can knock it out. So there, we've got that shape type of thing. And I will build that out here in just a second. So talking through all of that to give everybody a moment to go through, figure out which image they want to work alongside with us. And so we're going to jump in with an image real quick that I have downloaded. I liked this fella, the older gentleman. So I'm going to open that one up. So as you can see, this is a horizontal format and we are working in a 19 or 18 by 24. So one of the things that I like to do to start off is one of the other assets in that download folder should be an 18 by 24 PSD. We've got 3/4 margin in here just as I like putting in margins on my posters that way. If you don't have a mat, you don't have to get the poster matted if you want to get an 18 by 24 frame. The little white border does that for you. So anywhere from, a half inch to an inch gives you a nice little border like this on your standard frame sizes. So anyhow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the my stock image of the older gentleman and drop her in here. One of the other things, I think the Photoshop file that is in the downloads asset has this color fill layer at the top. It is set to color mode so that anything underneath it turns it black and white for you. And it's a trick that I learned, I believe it was Kyle Webster in his Photoshop genius that all tips and tricks that he has passed along over the years has one that has stuck with me. So um, framing out and knowing sort of where you're wanting things to go with sketches is one of the reasons it's important to do the sketch work. If you know that you want to have your image on one side and your type on the other, it's important to either like work to create that space. So as you can see here, we've got, let me make some room. There we go. So we can see Photoshop and Illustrator together. Um, so we've got the gentleman here. So what I want to do is I know like the type is going to be over here. I'm going to increase the size of our character about here. And I'll pull this up so you can see sort of spacing of things. And a lot of times, when you have horizontal photographs and you're working in a vertical format, there's some things you got to figure out how to work around. So a lot of times, coming in with the generative fill uh, will work. And let me see, where did that? I don't know where that bar went. So we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. Um, so basically, I just make a copy paste, stretch it out a little bit. Um, and granted, sometimes it's harder to see some of those lines. Sometimes thankfully I didn't get any of the button. That looks pretty good, actually. I'm gonna let that ride since we're more concerned about the technique of making the um, halftones this go round. Just gonna do this to give me some shapes and colors to work with here. And I'm gonna put a slight blur on this to kill some of the pixelation that we get from stretching it. There we go. Alrighty. Uh, Seeing some friends popping in chat. Got Kate and Natasha. Thanks for popping in and playing along with us today. Yeah, if you're in chat, I know we've got chat happening on Behance and YouTube. I'm currently looking at both. So if you've got some comments, drop them in there wherever you're watching. And I think the mods are looking at Behance, so if that helps you. So what I'm going to do here is just sort of try to create a vignette around this guy. So the main things are going to be just filling in, these colors so that we can get whoops, get some quick shading and things of that nature knocked in. So, and I'm going to put a mask. See if I can mask him out of that layer. This object selection tool update has been amazing. Before that would take me a little bit of time to do with the magic wand. Not anymore. I love it. So I'm gonna add that here to this mask. Make sure I get some of the smooth transitions happening up in his hat. Okay, cool. I've got that. So I'm gonna paint in here. Some of these, try to carry this over a little bit, that line. There we go. Oops. Pull back some of that white just. There we go. All right, so again, a little stretched background, but I think with the focus on the typography and the texturing, I think we're gonna be able to squeeze by pretty quickly on making this. So I'm gonna group those, and I'm gonna make a duplicate just by holding down Option and dragging, click and dragging on that layer. And I'm gonna hit Command E to flatten it. So I've got a flat version and a layered version. That way, if I want to make some more adjustments, I can. So we'll save that. I do this because we're going to flatten everything and destroy it. So this is where it gets a little tricky with this. And if somebody knows a way of making this uh, non-destructive, I would love to hear your thoughts. But at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to image, going to kick it over to grayscale, and we're going to flatten everything. Um, and at this point, we can do either one last little bit or a one last test levels. You could do this before we did it as well. Actually, I'm going to do that before we flatten everything. That way, it's in the file. Um, do a levels or curves, whichever you'd like to do. I like working in levels. Because I haven't figured out how to invert the white and black points in curves since the update. Um, so it's easier for me to see this. So I'm going to push those blacks, crush the blacks a little bit, and then we're going to save that again. And we're going to go through the flattening process. Kick it over to grayscale, flatten it, discolor or discard the information. Then we're going to come back up to image again, and we're going to hit bitmap. What that's going to do is that's going to bring up where's that dialog box? It's hidden the dialog box from me. It's probably behind Photoshop. Is it? That's weird. If I hit enter, it's going to do it. I bet. Yep, there we go. So let me see if I can undo that so we can see the dialog box this time. No, it is not. Does not like that. So I'm going to do a save as real quick. Actually, do a save as and kick that over to my files. And I'm going to do a quick restart of Photoshop. And while that does that, I'm going to walk through some more stuff here in Illustrator. All right, so one of the things with the type, the lettering, if you've got some pen and ink, I did this with a dip pen, a couple different dip pens, a couple different inks, just trying out some stuff, and wrote it a bunch of times. Picked the ones that I like the best, and then built her out this way. And okay, there we go. We've got her back. Let's try this one more time. So if you've got a chance, if you've got your image figured out, you've had a chance to write down any of this stuff, we'll get to the digitizing of type. If you've been on a stream of mine before, you probably know exactly what's coming. We're going to be jumping into Illustrator and vectorizing it. So we've got it. Well, okay. We'll kick it over to bitmap. I have no idea why it will not show me the dialog box. Give me 1 second. See if I can figure out why it's doing that for us. Might try an older version of Photoshop, see if we can. get that to work. Sorry about this. Um, yeah, I've got the dialog box hidden someplace. There we go. All right. Alrighty. Let's check her out here. One more time. All right, we've got the flat or the layered file. Gonna kick it over to grayscale. We'll flatten it. Okay. And we'll do bitmap. There we go. This is a screen I wanted everybody to see. This is where the magic happens. So I usually work with 300 pixel for printing out gig posters. This will affect the grain of your halftones, how big the dots are, or how thick your lines are. That we'll also mess with that here on the next screen. But what you want to make sure is you come into this method, hit the halftone screen, hit OK, and that'll bring you up to this dialog box, which here um, you can tell it like the frequency that you want, the angle that you want. And basically the angle is exactly, it's just going to tell you which direction the lines are going to go. And the frequency is going to be how fine or coarse those lines are. So if we want super coarse lines, we're going to go, super low number. And what that's going to yield is super, super coarse. If we go, I'll just keep it here with the lines. If we go up to 50, 55 and have much finer halftones, which if you're trying to screen print this, it's going to be a nightmare unless you've got some solid equipment to burn the screen. So we want to find something that's uh, in between these pieces. So we know 5 is super, super coarse. We know 55 is super fine. I usually will hang out around the 20 mark to figure out where I'm at. And depending on how big the image is, that'll be a starting point. So I'm just going to do a save as. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick that into the we're going to save it as a tiff. And the reason we're going to do that is because you can change the color of a tiff in Illustrator. There we go. That's where it's hiding. All right. Rearranging some windows. All right. So now we've got this image set up. Let's kick over to back over to Illustrator. I am running an older version just because I've got some plugins that I haven't updated to the new version of Illustrator. So that's what that is, or why that is. All right, here we go. So I'm going to place the image and let's see, recent. Where did it? There we go. All right, so we've got our image placed in here. Why did that not bring in the bitmap one? Try that again. Okay, there we go. Place. And here we go. Okay. So as you can see, we've got the halftones. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag him to the image layer. And like I said, because this is a TIFF, you can jump into your color palettes and make it any color that you like. And I don't understand the magic that is Photoshop bitmap TIFF that allows you to do this, but it's one of my favorite things ever. So we're gonna have it be this dark green. So that's the halftone patterns, and we can jump in and go. I'm gonna create a new artboard by that's a Shift O will give you bring up the artboard tool. I clicked on an artboard, drag it over with Option. We're just gonna start from scratch. So we've got our image here. Feels like we've got some good spacing that works. I like how that's working. I do want to go back in. I think the lines, I like the look of the lines a little bit better. And that might be a touch on the too fine of a halftone pattern. So we were at 20 and we're gonna jump back into um, let's make this. I'll do another one, show you the difference. We're gonna jump to 15, see what that does. We'll save that out as 15 dot. And then we're gonna undo, go back to bitmap, and this is where we're gonna do the lines. And you can do that here with the shape. You can choose from diamond, ellipse, line, square, or cross. Line is what you want. And now if you want just straight up and down vertical lines, 90 degrees is what you want. And there you go. I want to add a little bit of movement to it. So that's where I'm at 45 with this. And there you go. So at that point, then you just hit save as, Command Shift S, and we'll save this out as 20-degree lines, or 20 lines at 45 degrees. Save that out as a TIFF. Bring it back here. And place that back into your file. And there we go. So you can see make another artboard real quick. Hold down Option to make that duplicate. So there we go. You can see the difference in those images. On the left, we've got the lines, and on the right, we've got the dots. If you want that to still be a little bit more coarse, we can do that. Let me know in the chat if you want the be a little bit thicker lines of everything. There we go. Lost all the windows. Close that since we have our image. Alrighty. So, you want Marcus, you want them thick? All right, let's go make some thick lines. Let's see. Here we go. So is everybody okay, we were at 15. Let's drop her down to 5. See what we get. Chunky. Chunky lines. Do we like that? Is that too coarse? Save this one out as 5 so we know where we're at. That was a 5. And honestly, I make a bunch of different iterations like this just to play around with because it looks good and when you're zoomed in and then you get into Illustrator and you're like, maybe a little too chunky, a little too thick, or not enough. So you save a couple options. You can jump in and have them ready to go. So, all right, let's jump back in here. And we want, I'm just going to replace Actually, no, I'm going to do this so that you can see the side by sides of them. Drag these over into our, there's 5 and 10. Respect, or yeah, here's, man, what do you guys think? You want the super chunky? I'm sort of leaning towards 10. I might do a little bit more detail. I think that's what I'm going to run with. If you want to overvote or overturn that decision, drop a note in the chat. Um, we'll go with the super chunky lines. And but let's jump into start coloring and working with the layers and stuff like that. So, like I said, because it's bitmap, real easy to change the coloring of those things. So we're going to send the image to the back. And on this layer, I'm going to make that white. So basically we'll knock that out. So whenever we print the green as like a screen print, it's there's nothing that's going to be there. It's just going to, yeah, it's not going to print anything. So on that layer, we've got the our image and our white knocked out type. So then what we're going to add, I did put those on the wrong layer. There we go. All right. So I do want to have these. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to lock that layer for right now. We're going to come back to this next layer up. Going to colorize that. And then if you want, that way you can have it offset. And what you're seeing now is that this layer, I have gone in and targeted it, and I have adjusted the transparency. Normally, everything would look like that. It would just be, and if you wanted that to be multiply, you could come in and go, yeah, I want it to multiply. But since everything on this layer is going to be, we're going to add some like um, transparency base to our inks when we go to screen print this. I want to emulate that as best as I can in Illustrator right now. So what I'm going to do is um, click on this little target. That'll allow me to come up here and change the blend mode for the everything that's on that layer. And it saves a lot of time and a lot of headache. Was that multiplied? Was that not? Is it on the right type of thing? So as you can see, if I lock that and I move the white type underneath, that type is now just multiplied over top of the green ink. The blue is multiplied over the green. So there we go. We've got that going. And so now what we're going to do is I'm going to start building out that rising tide. Oh man, some ice cream talk happening in chat, and now I'm yeah gonna be getting a big bowl of ice cream after this stream is over. Um, so what we've got here, like I said, we built this out. We'll place it, bring it up to the front. Oh, that's on the blend layer. So let's figure out how high do we want this water to be on this character. Um, so we've got that. We've got those waves. If you want these waves to be smaller, that's something that we can do here by coming in and grabbing these and coming up to transform. Oh, wrong transform. I want this transform. Transform each. Let's bring them down 90%. Oops. Does them both at once. And then with like I said, the blend tool that stretches it out. Everything's still there. I didn't have to do any additional math. I'm happy. I mean, I got into art because math hurt my brain. And yet I'm still using math. I tell that to my kids all the time. You're still using math, even if you're doing art. Um, but it's where the technology comes into play. So I'm going to expand this, come up to Object, Expand. And what that'll do is that'll turn that blend into actual objects. I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure everything's good. Ungroup those, come down here to Pathfinder. I'm going to combine them and then expand. And then, as you can see, this is my blue. Oh, while we're doing that, let's do this real quick. So I've got my colors here. I want to make just a color palette. So I'm going to do um, select them, hit that little group button, name it what you want. Boom, you got your palette. And then you can come in, clean up your board so you're not hunting and pecking for colors that you're not using. And there you go. You've got your palette right here. That's used somewhere, but we'll come back to it. And that way you don't have to worry about picking colors from swatches and things of that nature. So another thing, I'll show you this real quick. If you've got an object that is, you like the stroke color, or you see a stroke, and you want this object to do, if you just use eyedropper, it's going to copy the properties. But if you hold down Shift and click, it's just going to pick the color property. Another wonderful time saver that some developer put in to make our lives easier. And thank you, whoever did that. Thank you. Um, that's honestly why I started building out these swatch palettes so I could have easy access to them. So now we've got our outlined shape, and we've got our base water. So we're going to come back here. Let me bring this up on top. Cut those out. All right, now we've got our water. And so what I'm going to do now, make sure that that is on the multiply layer. There we go. So we've got our figure, we've got our multiplied layer on top of that with our blue ink. And now we are going to jump into the teardrop. And again, I'll show you how to make that. Let's see. Let's see. Can I get this to line up? Perfect. Look at that. Um, Again, using W to come over here to grab the blend tool. I've got the two objects selected. I'm going to click in between the two of them to get that spine started, or spline. I can't remember if it's spine or spline. Um, that's going to open up the dialog box. Let me tell it how many I want. That looks good. We'll go with OK. And so there we go. That's coming together. I'm going to move this guy. Oops. And make sure everything's unlocked. Slide this over here so we can see a little bit more. All right. Okay, we've got now we're going to start bringing in and rasterizing type. I know I cheated and have the title over here already done, but like I said, grab your phone, take a picture of your sketches or your notebook, all your lettering. I have found that a coated paper does what I want it to do, whereas the uncoated sketchbook paper, a lot of times with that absorption, when the ink hits the paper, just sort of starts dancing all over the paper fibers and stuff like that. So take a picture with your phone, and then airdrop your text over to your computer, and then we can bring that all into Illustrator and start rasterizing it. I did several different takes. Like I said, I'll show you some of those of getting all the titles right. this one is the one that I used here, so we'll jump in with that. So come over here to image trace. We'll get things rolling. Hit OK. So initially, right out of the gate, not too bad. I want to come in and dial things in. We're going to ignore white. So we're only working with black pixels in this. Uh, jump up the threshold. And um, oh, what writing utensil, Marcus? I said rasterizing. Um, vectorizing. Yeah, vectorize. I've got a soda pen that I have made, and it is over at my other desk. I failed in bringing it over here before I started the stream, but it's fun. Basically, you take a tin can and you make a little dip pen out of it, type of a thing. It's like a DIY ruling pen. There's several different types of ruling pens, and I just at the time didn't feel like dropping $45 on a dip pen, so I made one out of a soda can. And um, you could use a normal quill dip pen with nibs. I love a Hunter is I think a 101 is one of my favorites dip pens. And as you can see, different textures. I did try a couple of different things. I think this is a Hitachi nib, and I think this I'm drawing a blank. I think this might be the soda pen one. So anyhow, we're going to pull up the image trace dialog box to sort of dial in the look that we want for our type here. Uh, the threshold, that's where you're going to sort of see some drop off in the gray if you don't do any color adjustment in Photoshop before dragging. If you just want to come straight from camera over to Illustrator, this is where you're going to see some of that grit, which is pretty rad. It might be some, might, yeah, we're going to add some texture to this that's not there. And this is a lot of times how I'll do that. I'll get it, dial it back a little bit to where it's not bananas. Find that sweet spot. You can drag and make copies of things in Illustrator in this mode. So if you're like, I'm not quite sure how that looked at these different levels, that's a little hack for you. So I like gonna up the paths a little bit. So these look pretty good. I like the grit and texture and stuff like that I'm getting down here. I'm gonna go ahead and expand both of those. Boom, there we go. So then at this point, I use the white arrow, hollow arrow to grab that text, bring it over here. As you can see, we're gonna have to do a little bit of cleanup. Let me close some of these. I don't need all these. I just wanted to show you. And you're not always going to get it right. And sometimes you'll get into it. You think you like this one, and then you'll do some work, get into the image. You're like, actually, I want it to be a little bit different. You can tweak it in Illustrator or just go back and redo the lettering. That's one of the nice things and the tedious things about working analog and whatnot. So just going to get rid of this and just grab this chunk of nastiness. That's what I want. We're going to come back over here, paste that in, group it for right now. Let me knock this out. Boom. Okay. And I hit N to get back to the pencil tool just to clean up that edge. And that looks like the way I want it to. And this should all be individual, but I'm going to go ahead and group the words together. or the letters that make the words. That way I can quickly stack them the way I like. Does that work? So again, we've got all of our assets coming in. So that's how we did the letters. And again, if you want this to be on that blend layer, we'll change that, get back over here. Lock the image. Lock that. Save this real quick. I just want to see what it looks like if it's a little bit bigger. I don't like it going over his eyes. Yeah. Oops, I moved the tears. So that's how I went about getting the type in. So since we redid that type, I'll use that for the poster. I'll copy that and paste it onto this layer. Command F will paste it in place. So it pastes it in the exact same spot you've got as opposed to just pasting it wherever by hitting Command V. Another time saver, and that's artboard specific. So if you wanted it to be in the exact same spot in every artboard, you just have to click on the correct artboard, Command F, it'll paste it in the exact same spot in every artboard. I love it. I appreciate the encouragement there, Mark. All right, let's see. Any other questions that are popping up in people's heads so far? Is this all making sense? If you drop a note in chat, let me know. Yes, you're following along, or no, you want me to hit something, let me know. And I will get on that. All right, so we pasted that on the white or the image layer. I'm going to bring it up here above just so it cuts through everything for the name, and then this little cutout just as your good old rectangle or marquee tool. Raise the water up just a touch. Direct select on using the white arrow, grab that bar, drop it down. This is what all I was doing. And since we are getting close on time for stream, I'm just going to use the pre-built pieces because I want to get to the border here that we built. Add a little bit of delicacy to the border type of a thing. And we can do that down here. I'm gonna cheat real quick. See what see what this looks like. There we go. That's what I'm trying to do. Let's see what happens when we knock out some of that texture in the water. Do we like that better? I like that a lot better. Yeah? Do you like that? Do you like the texture in the water as well? I do. I'm just gonna leave the texture in the water. All right. So with the I've got the rulers, so I'm gonna come in here and turn on my guides. Got ruler, do we have locked? Okay, cool. Let's do 3/4 there. And 3/4 there. No, that's not right. Oh, that is looking funny. I'll do it the old-fashioned way with the 3/4 inch block. Throw up here in the corners. I have got a baseline bridge, if that's what's happening. There we go. Okay. Grids. So that's what we're going to be working at this point. So I've got this, make that white, and we're going to be working with it on this layer. So at this point, what you can do is select your box and your image, Command 7 will make that mask. You get a nice clean border. If you want to do some decoration on it, we need to do that before we make it a mask. So I'm going to do a sort of a simpler mask, just using squares. Whoops. And I'm going to duplicate them. Make sure that they're in the center. If you don't know about this, this is another really, really rad trick. So if you got two objects selected, you hit the align, it's going to shift them. But if you click after you've selected multiples by like clicking and holding shift to get your multiple objects, click the object you want it to center to. So I know that one's where I want it, and it prioritizes that, and it'll align the other object to that piece in the artboard. So I've got these three squares. I'm going to combine them, and then I'm going to knock them out of that shape. So then what you can do is with the direct select tool, you come in here and you can dial in your corners. You can make them as big as you want. Come in here to these. You can smooth those out. You've got much more elegant framing than just with the hard edge. And you can do that up here in this toolbox. If you know, like, yeah, I want a 1/2 inch corner, be a subtler corner than the top. There you go. We'll push that back to make sure that our white lettering stays on top of our image. Come back to our layers palette. And there we go. That's, in a nutshell, a real quick way of building out the texture, creating a line halftone and a halftone pattern. Do we have any thoughts, questions? Let me see. Polly also loved the texture of the pastel paper from Photoshop Legacy. Yes, lots of wonderful paper textures. If this is going to live digitally and you want to emulate a texture pattern or like paper, grab some textures. Actually, do we have time to do that? I don't know if we've got time to do that. But that's a great idea, especially for digital presentations. If you're doing this and putting it into your Behance or uploading it to your own personal portfolio type thing, mocking it up, adding that little subtle texture of paper to say, hey, this is a final finished printed piece. That's a wonderful way to sell that. Oh, one other thing that I'm noticing here is I just put these little delicate cutouts into these corners just as a piece. You don't have to by any stretch of the imagination. You can leave them, you can leave it just like this without putting that little decorative element. But if you want to add just a little bit of love to it, you can do that. I'm going to copy, lock it, and then paste so I can grab it, slide it over. You know what? That's not going to work there because that letter's there. Do I like it there? I don't. But I am going to do this. Put it up here in the top. Just as a little jewel type of a thing. So, and a lot of times the reason this is not masked into that is just creating some depth in a two-dimensional uh, environment is one of those things that you is like little print tricks that you can make. Um, but yeah, so there we go. We've completed the reskinning of the Beta Radio. This one's gonna hurt single poster. It came out back in January. Their new one, Floating Through, came out last week, February 16th. Go check them out. They're great indie folk band here from North Carolina. But thanks for jumping in and designing along. Hope you learned some stuff. Hope there were some workflow tips and tricks in there as well. And stay tuned. We got some more events happening here on Adobe Live for the afternoon. So till next time, see you then. Keep creating. Thanks for dropping in.